everyone, and welcome to this edition of HCS Matters. My name is John Wright. I'm honored to be the Director of Public Relations for Hardin County Schools. We're here taping today at Radcliffe Elementary in their library. We're off school today, but it's still a great day to be out and about. And we thought we'd come visit the fine folks at Radcliffe Elementary. They are doing great things. Ms. Sturman and her team are amazing, and Radcliffe Elementary is certainly one of the shining stars in our district, and that's why we just decided to hang out here today. And we're talking elementary curriculum, and we thought it would be a great place to do that with Stacy Bronner, our Director of Elementary Education and Curriculum, and Ms. Carlina Sharon, who is our Director of Preschool and Early Childhood Education. And guys, I think we're back. I don't want to jinx us, but I think we're back from the pandemic. And so just wanted to talk a little bit today about how we handled it and how we got through it. So, you know, I guess from your perspectives, you know, when Ms. Morgan said on March the 13th, you know, right at 2 years ago, we're shutting her down. You know, how did that affect us instructionally? And I guess just talk about, you know, what your departments did, or what our elementary teachers did, and our kindergarten and preschool teachers did to accommodate that.
Well, I think when I first heard the word shutdown, I thought maybe 2-3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you didn't really feel it was going to have that big of effect on you. So what are we going to do for the next couple of weeks to make things work? Mm-hmm. So I think that was the biggest thing for me, was to think smaller than the greater picture at that time. Mm-hmm. So scrambling around trying to figure out how this was going to work, and getting a game plan in place. But I think bringing us all together like Ms. Morgan did, and starting to think about what's the best thing for our kids at this time, which I think the whole time during this pandemic, that's been the conversation of what is it going to be best for kids. Mm-hmm. So I think the approach that we took then, and trying to figure out how it was going to work with the barriers that we could not, we had no, what's the word I'm looking for? No control over, and how we were going to do it the best of our ability. Mm-hmm. I think that's what was going through my mind at the time.
Right. That's right.
And I would agree. I think that probably what was going through my mind was that we've spent years talking about the research around the fact that preschool and kindergarten children should have less screen time, that they really learn hands-on and they really learn in person. And then here we are faced with a situation that we are going to need to put them on screen time for a health reason. So I think that, you know, it took a lot of just taking what we knew was best practices in preschool and kindergarten, but then figuring out how to implement those visually, you know, from miles away, how to still make it hands-on. And, you know, I give a huge, you know, I think shout out and thanks to our teachers who scrambled to make that happen. And I think the teachers in Hardin County Schools, all of them, did a fabulous job of, you know, doing a 360 and figuring out how to best make it work for kids.
Well, and so let's talk a little bit about that. We had been an opponent of non-traditional instruction. We had never done it before, and we had always said it really doesn't hold a lot of value, but yet we found that value, and really because we had to over a weekend. I mean, just talk about how our teachers really had to adapt, literally on the fly.
Well, you had to learn a digital platform. You had to learn how to manage a Google Classroom. You know, and even if you were one of those teachers that didn't feel real secure with technology, it was like you had no choice. Mm-hmm. You had to learn it very quickly. Mm-hmm. But with our technology department and everybody working together, I mean, it was impressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I do think, I think one thing about Hardin County Schools is we've always, before pandemic, after pandemic, during, we have always kept a focus on students. That is why we're here. That's why we all teach. That's why we, have a school system. And I think always having that instilled in all of us, that it's about the students, made it a little bit easier to switch course. Things you were not comfortable with maybe before when you had the options. They just jumped in. They jumped in and took care of it because they knew that that's what was best for students.
Right.
So I think that helped us a tremendous amount.
Talk about maybe some different things that teachers needed from you all in your support roles at central office. What were teachers looking for to get them through this so they could optimize instruction and do the best they could with the students?
Well, I think first the basic understanding of the digital platforms, the Google Classrooms, and how to manage that aspect of it. But then it was like, okay, the instructional aspect of the work that we were going to provide, uploading it to that. What are we going to use? What best fits the virtual world when it comes to the instructional tools? So, having to shift gears because, before kids had basal readers in their hands, they had the manipulatives for math. They had those things available to them in the school, in that environment, but now they're sitting at home having to learn. So how do we best make that fit for a home environment?
That's true.
And I think for preschool and kindergarten teachers, for preschool teachers, we're required to have home visits in the home. So, we've been in homes a lot more than a lot of K-12. But teaching children and adults in the same computer screen was something we were not used to. And I think that was probably something that our teachers needed a lot of help with. Just, you didn't just have your student there, you had your student and whatever adult person was taking care of them. So I think that it was, and we know the attention spans of 3 and 4 and 5-year-old children. Right. So our teachers not only had to, adapt to using technology, but they also had to adapt to switching in and out of things that allowed for, students to get up and move and then sit back down for a few minutes and then listen to this and then, have this other movement. So I do think that, when I think back about everything we've done the last 2 years, I will say one thing that probably makes me so very proud of our teachers in Hardin County Schools is the fact that, the teachers of young children kept things very developmentally appropriate on a platform that's not really developmentally appropriate. And that was not an easy task, but they did it great.
How was it said, preschool, we don't keep attendance in preschool, we don't. Well, it doesn't count. I'm sure teachers mark or they didn't even know who was absent, but we don't. That doesn't go on their permanent record or whatever. So how did you keep them engaged and keep that family? Look, we need to be a part of what's going on, even though it's not really mandatory, but we still really need to be a part of what's going on. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think we have in Hardin County Schools, we've always stressed to our families that attendance is very important in preschool. And while we do not fall in the category of attendance being counted in a way that can cause you to go into some repercussions if if your attendance is not there. We certainly take attendance every day. We talk to families. We call every family who has a child who is absent more than 3 days. So we talk about how important it is because, to be in preschool is one thing, but to attend preschool and do what you need to do is where you get your bang for your buck. And that is the same thing about virtual instruction. To be a part of virtual instruction is one thing, but to be there and be engaged and do what you need to do and work with your teachers on the things that they're giving you to learn is where we saw a lot of students bloom. If you were on your end doing what we were asking you to do, then we saw you continue to grow and we saw you continue to, be ready for the next thing thrown at you because our teachers were doing such a fabulous job of trying to teach you to keep things going. Right. So I think for us, attendance probably was not so we certainly had some issues with attendance, but we had those every day. But for us, we've drilled home that attendance is so important. We talked to families about that when you're first eligible for preschool. Mm-hmm. So I don't know that it created as much of a barrier for us. Sure.
What was a big deal? What was an obstacle, Stacy, with students? We talked about staff. How did students? What was their, obstacles in adapting on the fly, so to speak?
Well, I think it's the same with teachers. For a third grader, fourth grade, fifth grader, they didn't spend a lot of time in a Google Classroom atmosphere. Right. Yes, we use technology in a blended fashion, but when you're receiving all of your instruction through the computer and you're not there with your teacher in person, that's huge. And I know some children, we would do Google Meets and join in on some classrooms, and just some of the distractions that are in the home as well, because life was still going on with younger children, moms, dads, grandmas, aunts, wherever the child was at, there was still life going on. And so the distractions were around those students. So not only did their environment change too, they have different things going on. And it was a hard time for families in general. And so I think kids could sense that too. So they were still trying to do what they could do, as far as the educational things that they were receiving. But there were a lot of distractions for the students during this time too, what I was seeing as far as the Google Meets I joined in on.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think our parents, probably not enough credit goes to them on how they handled it, because a lot of people were either maybe not planning to stay home, but now had to stay home. And so just talk about how our parents kind of really, I mean, stepped up is not the right word. They step up every day, but really accepted the challenge.
Well, I think one of the positive things I saw from it is now parents and guardians really could see what their kids were learning.
Yeah.
They were right in the classroom every day, and they were seeing and hearing. And so the feedback I got from parents was, wow, this job is very difficult. Teaching is a very difficult profession, because they were seeing the whole classroom too. They were seeing the 25 kids or the 20 kids that were in that Google Classroom, and some of the things that teachers face on a daily basis with, the questions, or trying to get a child back on task, trying to roll out the content, and even the depth of the content. Like, I didn't realize it was as hard and as deep as it is on what you're expecting the students to do. So I think that there was positives to that aspect. But yes, our parents, they were not only taking care of their homes and all these other things too, they were trying, they were the teachers as well too, trying to keep that momentum going in their homes.
Yeah, that's right.
And I would echo the same thing. I think inviting, if I think even about my own home, inviting all of, Hardin County schools into my home in a virtual setting probably would be a little nerve-wracking for me, while I'm still trying to do a job and I'm still trying to take care of children. But I think families, you're right. I mean, a lot of credit goes to our families who, I think really encouraged their children to do it and made sure they were where they were supposed to be. And, I think all that is, a testament to Hardin County working so closely with their families and, keeping students first. I think when I think about preschool and kindergarten, our teachers worked so hard to keep things normal in a time that was not normal, and that may have involved porch drop-offs, packets, of hands-on materials that students could use. I know it involved Easter eggs being hidden in yards, because that's what kids would get at school, around that time, and they loved that. So we kept a lot of the things that we would do in school, we adapted it to happen in their front yard. Graduation from preschool happened in a lot of a front yard of a lot of houses.
Parades.
Yes, parades.
Parades,
yes.
Yeah.
The way that our staff stepped up to go above and beyond to take care of kids is a testament to what great staff we have in Hardin County.
Yeah, and a lot of those staff just did that.
They did.
Not because you told them to or you
Right.
told them to. They just did it
Right.
because it was what was cool for
I think they
kids.
sat down and thought, like, how do we help our kids, and how do we help them in a time that is so unique, feel a little bit of normal, and that is what they did. And some of those parades, I think we said we did because we wanted to let the kids see us, but I think our teachers needed to see the kids. They were as excited to get in those in those parades and see their kids as anything.
Then we adapted to AB. We limped to the finish line in 2020, and then we went to this AB schedule in 2021 or to start the 2021 school year. How did that? I guess that was a little glimmer of hope, but still seeing a child every other day. It was kind of like the college schedule of class Tuesday and Thursday and every other Friday. But just talk about how we adapted to that.
I think we were just excited to get back in person, that we were going to make it work. Of course, we were going to make it work. It was difficult, I know, listening to teachers, because you were trying to balance, who was here, and then if they didn't show up, the gap in between, and trying to keep up with that attendance and knowing what was going on. But I think it was amazing to look at the balance the balancing act that they were doing with this. And it was so great to see the kids, because the kids were so excited to be back. The teachers were so excited to be back. And it was just wonderful being back in person, that we were going to make it work no matter what.
Right.
And again, after what we'd already been through, I mean, we made the best of a bad situation, and we just dove in and got started. And I think that it is what it is, but I think we were making the best of it.
Right.
And I do think that, our kids were so excited to be at school, and I think our parents were excited. I would say that if you interviewed a lot of parents, I would guess that a lot of them would say that the thing that made them, so happy to be part of Hardin County Schools is that we constantly were trying to figure out how do we bring them back? How do we keep them in school? Even if it meant, a Monday, Wednesday or Monday, Thursday schedule, how do we get them in school? So I think that, that was important to everybody involved, which we did, I think, all have a common goal, from the top of our administration to our teachers, to our kids, to our parents, all wanted to be in school, and that's the thing that I probably think is, I love being there on those days that we were able to come back, like being in a school building, because what you saw were very happy children. Happy children to be back in school with their friends, with their teachers, in a place that, I think that they all feel safe and, ready to learn and excited to be there.
Right.
And I think we were so intentional because we knew our time was limited on having those children in person, that, not that we waste any moment of a day. We're very intentional from bell to bell what we do, but I think that we were looking at our priority standards, and really prioritizing them on what do I need to get in here and what do I need to hit super, super hard, because we are making up for lost time, that interrupted learning. How am I going to make up? And I think that's what we were thinking constantly. How am I going to make up for this time? So we really prioritized, and we were so intentional on all of those things that we were going to do that, that we could make up for any of that lost time.
What did you learn or maybe even affirmed in your mind about our staff, our students, just about our district, about how we overcame that challenge?
Resilience is the word that comes to my mind. It was just amazing that, I don't know, what they were put in and how quickly we responded. I mean, it was immediate. You didn't have time.
Literally.
Literally. And it was, to me, I mean, it gives me goosebumps now to even think about it, how everybody came together. It was a village. It was, it was a community thing, and everybody worked together. And I don't know, I was just so proud of our district and the things that I was seeing play out.
Yeah. I would agree. I think that, whenever I go to other areas, I always hear, people say things about Hardin County. I think Hardin County definitely stands out as a district who, is on the forefront of doing what's right for kids all the time. And I have often said I think we have the best teachers in the state. And I think that, being in that situation, you just saw for sure a confirmation that what you have believed for a long time, we have the best teachers in the state, best staff in the state. It happened because everybody jumped in to do what was best for kids. And I think that comes from top down. I think our board and our administration is very focused on what kids need in the whole package, not just one point, because I feel like, we were delivering food, we were taking, this out here, and we were doing that. We were taking care of the whole picture and the whole child, and that has to make you proud to work for a district. I haven't worked for another school district, and I would not want to work for, I'm happy where I am, so I would not, I don't necessarily have a lot to compare it to, but I know what a gift it is that we have a district that cares so much about kids. And I think that probably is why, our kids came back when we could come back 5 days, came back ready to go and ready to learn, because we have tried to look at the whole picture. There's a quote or there's a meme out there about, you can, give this curriculum and you can do this, but you got to care about them. And I think that's probably the one thing that Hardin County has done a very good job about. It's never an either or in Hardin County. It's always a both.
Right.
You have to have relationships. We have to take care of the whole child. Just like I feel like administrators try to take care of the whole adult. We all have to take care of all of that. And I think that made, kids want to be back in school.
Sure. Now as we've gone through the timeline here, now we're starting to bounce back. We went from the AB schedule to 5-day-a-week instruction, and that was, that was certainly a red letter day. But talk about, the strategies moving forward, the instructional strategies. How did we, as you all kind of sensed, okay, we're gaining some momentum, what do we do now to step on the gas, so to speak, instructionally?
Well, during the pandemic, I know our instructional department team worked on our curriculum maps, and we got our priority standards in place. So moving back in, we knew everything and how everything was laid out and what our focus was going to be. Some of the strategies that we brought in, we have a new process in our reading with the Orton Gillingham. We became very intentional with that and having everybody understand that process and that rollout so that we could be present in the classrooms and providing feedback so that we could streamline and get these processes in place. And keeping an eye on things like that. We've got a new diagnostic, our iReady, which has got loads of information to specify deficit gaps, because we know, and when you have interrupted learning like we did, we were going to see that. So we can be so prescriptive of what we're seeing now that we can get in there and fill those gaps very quickly. We got very intentional with our intervention process, with our, we now call it MTSS, our multi-tiered system of support. When we know that there are students who are struggling, we've got everything aligned with our continuums that we're tracking with phonics and phonemic awareness, that our interventionists are working alongside the regular ed teacher, knowing what these skills are, so that we can quickly plug these holes, these gaps that we're seeing. So I think we started streamlining so many processes and these new strategies that were coming in, and everybody was getting aligned across the district, that we are seeing the results on our diagnostic, that we are progressing very quickly on this learning loss.
Was there a priority? Look, we got to fill the phonics hole first. We got to fill the math hole first. I mean, was there a priority?
I think we were just trying to tack it all, but I mean, we know that we have a phonemic awareness that has to be, before you go into phonics.
You got to read.
Yes, and you got to understand that auditory process part of it. And so, you know, we wanted teachers to understand this process, and keeping an eye on both phonemic awareness and phonics. You know, our math is important as well. So again, it was just getting those tips out there, those strategies that teachers were being, they understood it too, you know, because you've got a lot of things going on. And so I think our role too was helping them and supporting them in those fashions, those areas. I don't know, as we moved on, because we did have a lot going on all at once. We take on a new diagnostic, a new process in literacy, which is huge. I mean, I'll let you add on to that.
Yeah, I would
Carla.
say, you know, I think that that's very true about Orton Gillingham. We are using the processes from Orton Gillingham, which is the science of reading. It's not necessarily a program, but more of a process of using the right strategies to help children go from concrete to abstract, which is how kids learn. And I think it's so laid out for us that it is, our teachers are doing such a nice job of teaching it, but it is what our kids need, because it is a multisensory approach. I think we are committed top down that we are going to do it with fidelity, because we are doing it for kids and we want kids to be successful. And you know, while I don't necessarily, you know, go on record as saying one subject is more important than another, I do know that I think we as a district are very committed to our students have to be able to read. They have to be able to read proficiently. We've got to do everything we can to get them to read, because once you become a reader, an independent reader, your life is forever changed. Yep. You can do so much more. And you know, the one thing I think about math is, you know, while we can, you know, you can be a good math student and not necessarily be a great reading student, but there's so much reading in math anymore that you have to have that reading component. So I think our district has really, I think we have focused on helping our teachers with whatever they need to be able to get this reading process in place and be able to help our students become good readers.
Better readers, better writers
Yes.
as well,
Yes,
right?
we're doing a lot of writing as well.
Right.
And it's connected. You know, I mean, reading and writing, I think, are connected, and that's the one thing probably Stacy and I have talked about. We love this OG approach because there is so much writing connected to the reading. You know, and there's reading every day. You know, our students should be reading in school every day, and they should be reading at home every day, because that's how you become a better reader, is reading.
Right.
You know.
With Carlina's preschoolers, kindergartners going through the pandemic, and now they're first graders, second graders, post pandemic. Have we seen? I mean, what's the lapse like? Because what she does is so foundational. What have we seen from I don't know, any type of loss of that?
Well, I mean, when you have interrupted learning, you're going to have a loss. But I think we have rebounded very nicely. I mean, I think we are making up for that lost time. I know with even our already representatives that's been working with us, they met with us the last time and they said, we work with a lot of districts, but we've not seen growth like we've seen for Hardin County. And that was awesome to hear. Yeah. They go, we don't know what you're doing, but this is unheard of, the amount of growth that your students are making.
Wow.
So whatever you're doing, keep it up, they said.
Kind of got goosebumps.
I know, it's exciting.
Yeah, that was an exciting
But
meeting.
you are correct. You know, when you look nationally at the data that iReady has given us nationally, first graders took a hit. I mean, they are the kids who did not spend a normal year in kindergarten, and they didn't spend a normal year in preschool, and they certainly were the group nationally that scored lower in the fall. And we made tremendous gains in Hardin County from fall to January when we took the second diagnostic. But we still have a ways to go. I mean, that's why I think, when I think about Mr. Sutton, our ISD associate superintendent, that's something he has talked to us about in every meeting is what are we going to do for these first graders through this summer so we have no loss of learning so they can continue on the path they're on. So we certainly recognize that. I think our first grade teachers have done a fabulous job of trying to get those students, acclimated back to 5 days a week and taking care of all of their needs and getting them where they need to be. But we haven't lost sight that we've got to keep our eyes on them.
It's kind of, I'm a big sports guy, as both of you know, so it's kind of like, we're up 20, but yet we gotta put our foot on the gas, and
That's right.
before the horn blows. I like to win by 50, So that's good. So we're back. Fair statement?
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. That's great. That's great news. So there you hear it from two of our instructional experts, Ms. Stacy Bronner and Ms. Carlina sharing. We're back, and that's wonderful to hear. But we've got a lot of work to go, and we're not letting up because we are back. So it's a great time to be involved in the Hardin County Schools. If you have any questions about what's going on in your child's school instructionally, don't be afraid to reach out to our instructional services department, either these folks or some folks in our ISD department. We'll certainly be glad to help you. And but most important, your child's teacher, your child's principal is really the best person to talk to, and because they know your child and they can help solve those problems. Ladies, thank you all very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. We'll see you all next time.